I want you to think about this. Allegedly, Sean Carter is responsible for enacting Hype Williams to put Aaliyah on a faulty plane to move her out the way as punishment for rejecting him, and so he could level up Beyonce.
The sun was setting in the Bahamas, but for Aaliyah, the light was already dimming. After wrapping what would become her final music video, Rock the Boat, the 22-year-old star stood at the edge of an airport runway, unsure. The small Cessna 42B, gleaming white under the tropic sky, sat waiting. But she didn't want to get on it. That much, we now know. She had told her team she had a headache. She climbed into a taxi, laid her head down, and said she needed to rest. What happened next has haunted fans and investigators alike for over 2 decades, and new claims are making that unease feel like a spark that might ignite a far deeper fire.
She was unconscious. She didn't choose to get on that plane. There were phone calls made. There are witnesses who signed NDAs.
According to a local witness who was just 13 at the time but was helping his family with Aaliyah's transportation, the singer never willingly boarded the plane. And she was sleeping, some say sedated, when her team allegedly lifted her onto the aircraft against her will. It's a detail that's reignited long-held suspicions. Was the crash simply a tragic mistake, or was there something darker at work that day? The plane was 700 pounds over its weight limit. The pilot wasn't even certified for that aircraft and reportedly had banned substances in his system. Who greenlit this? Why the sudden urgency to leave when a safer charter was scheduled the next day? And then there's the weight nobody's dared quantify, the weight of Aaliyah's influence, her style, her sound, her future. Because when she perished in that fireball of twisted metal and shattered legacy, a vacuum formed in R&B. And not long after, someone else stepped into the spotlight. Someone the industry had been grooming. Someone who, at the time, was still just part of a girl group. Someone named Beyoncé.
And I'm not saying allegedly.
Oh.
I'm saying, Sean Carter, you're a piece of shit. Taking Pimp C wasn't bad enough. You just want to go down there and you want to just remove all of the balls from every real gangster in Houston.
That's where the whispers start turning into theories. And theories these days are breeding faster than denials. Aaliyah's trajectory had already crossed paths with the industry's most powerful figures. Jay-Z had tried to pursue her. Multiple insiders confirmed that. Diddy was orbiting close, appearing at events, collaborating with the same circle. And Beyoncé? Well, she wasn't yet a solo superstar in 2001, but she was next in line. That much was clear to anyone watching. What's not so clear, what remains murky, tangled in speculation and sealed settlements, is just how her rise was timed. Because here's what we're now being told. Aaliyah's departure from the island was rushed, chaotic. Video equipment was shipped to the wrong location. Flights were rebooked multiple times. Weight limits ignored. Aaliyah's own mother later settled lawsuits tied to the crash. Quietly, without fanfare. But it's the scheduling that's under fresh scrutiny. A new theory floating among industry insiders claimed Beyoncé's team may have influenced certain logistics surrounding the Rock the Boat shoot. Allegedly, they wanted Aaliyah back in the US for conflicting promotional opportunity, one that was never officially announced. The details are vague, the timing convenient. No names have been officially connected, but the murmur is getting louder.
What's up, what's up? This is Beyonce on the red carpet with one of the hottest female artists out here, Miss Aaliyah. How you doing, girl?
It's so good to see you again.
The angle that keeps surfacing like a cork in murky water is this. If Aaliyah had survived, where would Beyoncé be now? Because in 2001, Aaliyah was on the verge of eclipsing everyone. Her final album had just debuted to rave reviews. She was acting, she was modeling, she was setting the tone for a new kind of stardom. Fashion-forward, genre-bending, utterly unbothered by comparison. Beyoncé was talented, sure, but Aaliyah had something else. She was untouchable. And in an industry where timing is everything, the timing of her exit has started to look less like a tragedy and more like an opening. Enter Sean Diddy Combs. Here's where the temperature starts rising. Diddy, once a mogul celebrated for his swagger and savvy, is now at the center of multiple lawsuits that describe a world of coercion, control, and exploitation. One lawsuit alleges the existence of a ring, an organized, intentional pattern of silencing, manipulating, and, in some cases, destroying. And it doesn't take much for curious minds to link those patterns to the chaos around Aaliyah's final hours. Diddy was close to Jay-Z. Jay-Z was courting Aaliyah. And Beyoncé? Well, She's married to one and closely tied to the other. It's a triangle of power, a structure, some say a hierarchy.
There are people who did short sales on their stocks right after that, made a lot of money, including Sean Carter. Now I'm going to ask you, why would non-disclosure agreements need to be signed for an accident?
One former insider, who worked with a charter broker involved in the fatal flight, claims that phone calls were made in the hours before Aaliyah boarded. Not to authorities, but to handlers. What those calls discussed hasn't been revealed, but the aircraft switch, the insistence on leaving that night instead of waiting for the next day's flight, it was all done under pressure. From whom? That's the question no one wants to answer. The pilot, Luis Morales, was a man with a record. He had just received probation for a crack-related offense. He wasn't certified to fly the Cessna 402B. He also had illegal substances in his system when they found his body. That's confirmed. But Morales didn't hire himself. Someone chose him. Someone signed off. And someone overrode every warning about the plane's load and balance. Federal rules about weight distribution were simply ignored. The wings snapped on takeoff. The plane dropped like a stone.
Why the would you need to sign a don't ask about a plane crash if it was accidental?
Yeah. Do you feel like...
Riddle me that. Riddle me that. Work with me here in this moment.
And I'm gonna ask you.
A plane crash should be accidental.
Should be.
And that, according to a chilling testimony given years later, was exactly what someone wanted. In a book by music journalist Kathy Iandoli, a former Bahamian local claimed Aaliyah was given substances before being carried unconscious onto the plane. Her reluctance was real. She didn't want to board. She was scared, but someone made the choice for her. And that's when the question stopped being, was this an accident, and became, who wanted her gone? The names swirling around that question have only grown darker. Jay-Z, who once sent flowers and courted Aaliyah heavily, was accused last year in a shocking civil case of misconduct involving a teenager at a music event. The suit alleges a party, a secret NDA, and a night that ended in trauma. The charges are still pending. But the overlap with Diddy's own court battles is uncanny. Same circles, same city, same summer.
This morning, rap mogul Jay-Z is denying allegations he assaulted a 13-year-old girl alongside rapper Sean Diddy Combs. That civil lawsuit filed against Combs in October was amended Sunday to include Jay-Z. The accuser, identified only as Jane Doe, says she was assaulted by both men.
And all of it has led to a fresh wave of internet detectives digging into old footage, archived interviews, forgotten lawsuits. Why did Beyoncé at the 2001 Lady of Soul Awards refer to Aaliyah as the first person to embrace Destiny's Child? Was that just a tribute or something deeper? One TikTok video, now viewed nearly 8 million times, suggests that Aaliyah's warmth toward Beyoncé was genuine, but that others around them were already positioning them as rivals. Only one could win, says a former Rockefeller roadie who claims to have witnessed key moments between Aaliyah, Jay-Z, and Diddy. Only one was meant to stay in the picture.
Weirdo. I don't get no what you got in your head, that neural link. You'll never outthink me. Ever.
And if Beyoncé's team had industry backing, legal muscle, and scheduling leverage, well, that starts to color the crash in a new light. There's no physical evidence tying her directly to the plane, no message, no email. But in the world of high-stakes entertainment, physical evidence is rarely left lying around. What's left is timing, motive, silence. And speaking of silence, there's the curious fact that Beyoncé herself has never spoken in depth about Aaliyah. Not in interviews, not in documentaries, not even in her own self-directed films. She's praised her in passing. She's acknowledged her once, maybe twice, but no deep stories, no shared memories, nothing that suggests closeness. It's almost as if keeping Aaliyah's memory vague has been part of the plan. After all, if Aaliyah's legacy had continued to shine, Beyoncé's path might have looked very different.
Jay-Z got his whooped by his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name? Solange. You gotta imagine, the feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your whooped.
As for Diddy, his name continues to swirl in every possible scandal, from allegations of orchestrating private blackmail networks to stories of minders running strange errands for him at all hours. This is no longer just about image. Multiple women and men have come forward, each pointing to a culture of obedience and fear. Some claim the recording industry knew, others say it wasn't just known, it was coordinated. And if that's true, if Diddy's network included pressure points at every level, then how hard would it be to nudge a young star onto a dangerous plane?
If we get to the bottom of Tupac's when that is finally revealed, 15 other will be revealed with it. And you will find that they were all committed by the same two people, father and son.
Maybe too easy, because in the end, we're left with a plane that shouldn't have flown, a pilot who shouldn't have been in the cockpit, a star who didn't want to board, and an industry that hasn't answered for any of it. And that's when the rumor returns, the one people dismissed in 2002 and are now reconsidering. Aaliyah wasn't just lost, she was removed. But if Aaliyah was removed from the spotlight, we have to ask who stood to gain. Her demise didn't just clear space in the charts, it cleared space in the boardrooms. Aaliyah's career wasn't simply built on talent, it was carved, managed, and constricted by a triangle of control that insiders quietly call the Bermuda Triangle of music contracts. At the center was her uncle, Barry Hankerson, the head of Blackground Records, the same man who introduced her to R. Kelly, managed her early image, and held the rights to her catalog for years after her passing. Then came the record labels, Jive, then Virgin, and the production houses who dictated where she performed, what she recorded, and, in some cases, even where she flew.
But after that major documentary comes out on Diddy, then you're going to start to hear more and more about Jay-Z and his nefarious past.
This wasn't just business, it was a cage. Aaliyah was trying to renegotiate her identity in 2001. She had started to express a desire to leave Blackground and pursue more control over her sound and her image. Industry sources say she had grown wary of the contracts signed in her early teens, contracts that critically also locked down her masters. After a string of platinum hits, a breakout film career, and a third studio album that debuted to global buzz, Aaliyah had leverage. But leverage makes you dangerous in a system that thrives on silence and loyalty.
Really a conspiracy if the same person keeps benefiting off the same kind of tragedy over and over?
Multiple insiders now suggest that Aaliyah had begun quietly meeting with attorneys. Some say she was exploring independent distribution, others believe she was preparing to go public with what she knew. Not just about her own deals, but about how other young artists were being controlled behind the scenes. One industry consultant, who claims to have reviewed early correspondence from her team, told us this. She wasn't just planning to walk away, she was planning to expose the machine. That's a quote we won't soon forget. And this machine, if that's even the right word, is the same one that enabled one of the darkest chapters in her life, the marriage to R. Kelly. We all know the surface version. She was 15, he was 27. The certificate listed her as 18. The union was annulled in secret. But what if this wasn't just a personal scandal? What if it was a pact?
Testimony about what happened leading up to it need to be covered under a non-disclosure agreement if there wasn't foul play.
Now, mind you, September 11th happened a week later. 9/11 happened a week later. Do you think that took away from it?
Once again,
Demetrius Smith, Kelly's former tour manager, admitted under oath that he helped forge the documents. Why? Because Kelly allegedly believed Aaliyah was pregnant. Others in his circle now say it was about control. A marriage, even an illegal one, would make it harder for her to testify, harder for her to walk away. But here's where it gets darker. Multiple people in the industry reportedly knew. Executives, lawyers, assistants. This wasn't a secret, it was a tolerated arrangement. One that over time became too dangerous to keep hidden. Because if Aaliyah talked about the falsified papers, about the enablers, about what really happened on that tour bus, too many names would be dragged into the light.
The both worlds. Nobody talks about that.
Nobody talks about this shit.
Nobody talks about that project.
That's smooth under the rug.
Why?
Her distance from R. Kelly after the annulment was total. She refused to speak about him. Her team shut down every question. But as the years passed and her independence grew, so did the risks. She had lived through one machine, survived it, and was now stepping away from another. And that's when, conveniently or not, everything unraveled. A booking error, a faulty plane, an uncertified pilot, a last-minute switch, a sleeping passenger placed on board against her will. All while certain careers that had once overlapped with hers, began to soar. Let's talk about those overlapping careers, because the parallels are getting hard to ignore. In the months after Aaliyah's passing, Destiny's Child began its transformation. Beyoncé emerged as the face. Her solo debut, Dangerously in Love, came in 2003, but the rollout started immediately. Behind the scenes, Columbia Records executives were pivoting resources. Jay-Z, who had once tried hard to pursue Aaliyah, was now partnered personally and professionally with Beyoncé. Diddy, meanwhile, stayed central to the industry's fabric. Collaborations, branding deals, television projects, all untouched by the tragedy that had rocked their orbit.
Jay-Z got his whooped by his his sister-in-law on camera. What's her name? Solange. You gotta imagine, the feds ain't step in and do nothing. The feds don't care about you getting your ass whooped.
What's striking is how little these figures said publicly. Jay-Z never shared a detailed statement. Beyoncé offered a short tribute about how Aaliyah was the first to embrace Destiny's Child. Diddy remained silent for years. For artists who attended the same parties, shared producers, even dated the same people, that silence stands out. And now, over 2 decades later, we're seeing new names pulled into the conversation. Jay-Z has been named in a civil suit that alleges horrifying conduct at an industry party involving a minor. The filing claims that Diddy was present, that an unnamed female celebrity watched, that a network existed, one that protected its stars while burying its victims. Jay-Z has denied all allegations. Diddy's legal team calls it extortion. But here's the thing, why are so many of these stories surfacing at the same time? Is it coincidence, or is something finally cracking open?
Jay-Z new video with Nas and DJ Khaled is a scene with checkerboards. These are all occult Satanists.
Because if the pattern holds, young artists, sudden silence, rising replacements, then Aaliyah's story may not be the only one. A TikTok video that racked up millions of views recently connected the names Aaliyah, Left Eye, and Michael Jackson, 3 iconic performers, 3 abrupt exits, 3 moments followed by immediate shifts in industry power. We're not saying these are connected, but we are saying that the music industry, like any empire, doesn't run on luck. It runs on structure, protection, sacrifice. And here's what chills us. Aaliyah wasn't just a singer, she was a symbol of what R&B could be, of what a black male artist could own. She was graceful in control and dangerously aware. She knew the game, she'd been burned by it, and by 2001, she was rewriting the rules. That's what makes her demise more than tragic. It makes it strategic. At least to those who believe she was silenced before she could expose the raw. So now we ask, if this could happen to Aaliyah, who else is on the list? How many stars have vanished, fallen, or faded right before they stepped into real power? And more importantly, how many of those stories are we only beginning to understand? We want to hear your theories. Was Aaliyah's passing a tragic coincidence or a deliberate erasure by the very system she threatened to dismantle? Drop your thoughts in the comments below because the truth isn't buried forever. It's just waiting for someone to dig. Thanks for watching. Stay sharp, stay loud, and above all, don't stop asking questions.